and I'm hands on the roof being patted down. I'm a junior at Villanova outside of Philadelphia, and I'm an engineering student. And I had this buddy who I'd met. I was selling high-end electronics with him. And this buddy was, I've become the answer guy to people on the internet for car detailing and garages. This is the guy I call. So he's like the next level of crazy. Well, he was, remember 3000 GT VR4, right? This car never worked, but when it did, it was super fast. So this kid, my buddy Ryan, who has this really nice but rarely functioning 3000 GT VR4, and I had a '99 Electron Blue EM1 Civic Si. So, and I had Volks and Comtech exhaust, all the JDM Yo stuff, all the Dream stuff. Ryan and I were BFFs for a while, and he lived at home, and I was going to Villanova, and probably 3 days a week we would go after work. We would go to the movies, and this is just off the main line of Philadelphia, so really affluent area in King of Prussia. And this is at the King of Prussia Mall, which was at the time the second largest mall in the U.S. And so it was heavily patrolled, and I knew this. He knew this. Everybody knew it was just off limits. Don't speed, don't do anything stupid around the King of Prussia Mall. And this movie theater was up on the top of the hill, and you'd always have to come back around the front of the mall, and there was inevitably always cops at the end of this tunnel. As was always the case, his VR4 was sitting on jack stand somewhere because it didn't work. And I had my Civic, and we had just gone to the spectacle, which was Fast and Furious 1. If those of you who are in your late 20s to late 30s remember back when that movie came out, it was like a spectacle. Everybody brought their cars, and everybody, of course, after watching the movie, wanted to race. But me being an engineer, me being very calm and collected individual, I knew we're at King of Prussia. It's like midnight. Nothing ever goes on well after midnight, especially on the road in this King of Prussia area. But my buddy wasn't so reserved. He had his sister's 1996 Chevy Cavalier convertible, black on black. He goes to, there's about 3 or 4 stoplights in between, getting on the main highway and the movie theater. So he proceeds to do a massive burnout right next to me in my EM1 Civic at every single light from the movie theater down to this tunnel. So I'm guessing the police heard us coming, but I'm literally doing nothing and saying, stop, don't mess with me, stop doing this. But he's laughing, this is before cell phones, so I couldn't call him, or at least before I had a cell phone. I couldn't call him and tell him to stop acting like an idiot. So we come to the last light. I'm literally driving like 30 miles an hour because I knew King of Prussia, you can go, get down to Concord Pike somewhere else, go do it somewhere else. But do not do it in the King of Prussia. There's, every mall has like the breeze or whatever, the drag that runs around it, and it's perfect for street racing. I mean, literally couldn't be any better. There's like a straight tunnel, and it's just, you're guaranteed to get pulled over, especially after the Fast and Furious movie. And we come up to the last light. I drive through the light. He was going right, I was going left. And sure enough, I got pulled over. So I go in this parking lot, and this is my first, what I thought was a fast car. It was the B16, Civic Si, front wheel drive, but I thought it was a speed machine. I thought it was amazing. And so I had about 6 or 7 tickets in a very short period of time. And so I'm pulled over, immediately asked to exit the vehicle as soon as they, saw my tag and my license. The cop said, "Look, put your hands on the roof of the car." So my hands are on the roof of the car. And now remember, I'm Villanova student, engineer, very reserved. Don't do anything wrong. Follow all the rules. Telling my buddy to stop doing this. And now I'm in my tie and my shirt, and I'm hands on the roof being patted down, and then asked to sit on the curb. while he went and, I don't know, do whatever cops do when they ask you to sit on the curb. So he told me, he said, just so we know, we got your buddy. And I'm like, look, I'm telling you, I wasn't racing. And I'm 20. I look like I'm 16. I've got a shirt and tie and a goofy leather jacket on, and I look the part of the typical cell phone salesman, street racer. This is before the time of vaping, but I look like one of those guys, So here I am, in my EM1 Civic, carbon fiber hood, and Volks lowered, really loud, toe-to-header, stereo. But again, stereo was turned down, car was driving 30 miles an hour, but it didn't matter. I looked the part. And he probably heard the squealing coming up light to light to light as I'm telling my buddy that, dude, you're going to get us arrested. And sure enough, I was almost arrested. Not a good scene. I eventually got reckless driving. I think it was so this is 2000, so $400 and some odd dollars. And so he hands me the ticket, and I immediately go back to my dorm and I call my buddy. And I said, no, Ryan, because he was also pulled over, or so I thought. I called my buddy, said, what did you get? I said, I almost got arrested. Reckless driving, racing, you idiot, I told you not to do this. And he's laughing his head off. I'm like, what? He's like, I didn't get pulled over. I'm like, what do you mean you didn't get pulled over? I saw him in the parking lot in this black Chevy Cavalier convertible. Granted, it's probably, I don't remember the exact time, but after midnight on like a Thursday. There just so happened to be another 1996 black Chevy Cavalier convertible. I couldn't make this up if you paid me. That got pulled over for street racing when we're not street racing. That happened to be in that same area that got pulled over and was probably distraught when the police had that person out of the car as well for street racing. I don't know who it was. I never saw, because as soon as the cop let me go, I proceeded to take off. But to this day, I'm sure my buddy Ryan will watch this and he'll be laughing his face off that I got the $450 ticket for him racing me in his sister's 1996 Chevy Cavalier convertible. I'll never live that one down. He got away and I got busted for doing nothing wrong. So that's the story of my first Fast and the Furious movie adventure. I think it was maybe the second or third time we saw it, but that was not a good experience for me.